Well, hello and welcome. My name is Velma. You can connect with me at velmanolds.com. This is all about your leadership chat. What does that mean? You get to listen in on valuable insights from valuable leaders just like you. I want to encourage you to go ahead and subscribe so that you never miss another episode. And if this is of value to you, please share the nuggets that you're going to take away from all these great leaders. Please give a big welcome to my special guest and your valuable leader, Rebecca Buell. Rebecca, welcome to your leadership chat.
I'm so excited to chat with you, Velma.
Oh, I am excited to chat with you too. Thank you so much. So I can't wait to dig into our conversation. For our listeners, Rebecca, to kick things off, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
So I am a Texan, born and raised in Texas, but I'm not really raised by a Texan family. My mom is from Canada and my dad's from West Virginia. So I'm not a country music fan or anything like that. I didn't grow up country music dancing or anything, but I've been here, went to school here, so I'm just very native to this area, the Dallas area.
Sure.
I have a family, my husband, I met in college. I've got two small kiddos who are 7 and 4. So navigating like the working business world as a mom as well, with young kiddos is an interesting venture.
Sure.
I started out after college, basically in the finance accounting space, and I started being a bookkeeper for a luxury home builder in the Dallas area, and I got to learn a lot through that,
Yeah.
because I started in 2008, and if anybody remembers what happens in 2008, there was kind of a big housing crisis.
Yes.
So I got to experience a best year to a worst year in a company, and I learned a lot though, at a very young age in the cycle of accounting and all these processes that I probably wouldn't have had early of access to normally.
Sure.
So I'm very much appreciate that time and that experience because it let me understand how to be very versatile and pivot very easily and things like that. And people were getting let go left and right. So just seeing that and how that works and just how the business works overall. But we went from 11 people to 3 people while I was there, and I was young and I wanted to be around a different kind of culture and everything like that. So I left and I came actually into an industry that I never thought I would go into or hadn't just considered, which was nonprofit.
Yeah.
And so I didn't think about accounting. Obviously, every business needs accountants, including nonprofit. So I ended up in that space at the National Breast Cancer Foundation, and I've been there for over 12 years now.
Yeah.
Started off as a staff accountant, so I actually took a step back in responsibility, but there was more to do and just was able to grow in the company. I had a great mentor that kind of took me under his wing, who I'll talk about later.
Yeah.
Kind of took me into the finance side and the future planning, and I've really enjoyed the company and being able to grow in different areas that they've allowed me to do and just kind of go with the things that I really enjoy. So I've been able to do a lot of different things there to the point where 5 years ago they promoted me to chief financial officer. So
Yeah.
that's my role now. That's what I do now, and I just love the nonprofit space and pouring into that world overall,
Sure.
and helping anybody. I love all the causes. I love the heart for it.
Yeah.
So that's where my heart is.
Yeah, no, and we share that. I'm spent 20 years in the nonprofit association world. So when we talked and we got introduced and I got to know you a little bit better, I was so excited because we shared that. On top of things, in our prior conversation, one of the conversations we had, when you were telling me that your accounting background and CPA, I know you probably remember I said, you're not the typical CPA that I know, because most of the accountants I know, they're wonderful, but they're like, I don't want to go on camera. I don't necessarily want to talk. And you're like, oh, no, I'll do it. So I think you're my first.
No one like that. So I definitely got into the accounting space. I was good at it.
Yeah.
This is a talent of mine. I was good at the skill and everything like that. And I would say if you knew like my upbringing and childhood or whatever. My dad lost his job when I was in high school, and he was the only one working in our household. And
Yeah.
so, like, stability, there's certain
Yeah.
values that are very important to me.
Yeah.
And when I was going into working and things like that, so I mean, death and taxes, right? Or like things you can count on. So I went into the accounting space because I was like, I'm good at it, and I'm pretty sure I can always find a job and I can do different things in this area. So the talent was there for that, but I love to do a lot of things. So
Yeah.
that's kind of why, although my mom would be shocked that I'm doing interviews because I was hiding under her dress for the first like 8 years of my life. I was so shy and
Right.
reserved and everything. So
Yeah.
just for practice, like getting the roles that I've gotten to and getting the
Sure.
opportunities has let me not be so fearful of those kinds of
Yeah.
situations and things. And I love to connect with people. It's one of my strengths and talents. So this is just a fun opportunity. So I appreciate getting to
Oh
share.
man. Yeah, no, and I am so excited because we never know who's listening in, and I just hope that they will see that you are willing to do this. I've had so many leaders that I've had the opportunity to have your leadership chat with, and several of them have said, Velma, this is not something you've really pushed me beyond my comfort zone in doing this, even though they're very successful, very accomplished, have achieved a lot in their career and and maximizing their potential. But just having a chat on camera, it was like, no. And even for me, I didn't want to do it. That's why I wear the Nike shirt. Just do it.
Well, you make us so comfortable that we're
Oh,
willing to. So thank you for doing what you're doing. But
yeah.
it's something I'd probably touch on later is that leadership doesn't always look like what you would think. You'd think all
Yeah.
leaders can do this thing and can do this talking and standing, and people don't always lead that way. So
Yeah.
they've probably done a lot of things where that's not been required, and they're leading where they're at. And
Yeah.
leadership looks different than there's not a set box of talents and strengths in leadership.
I love that. I love that leadership looks different, right? It does. It's not a one, here's a picture, you go into it. Okay. Well, we're kind of I'm so getting ahead of myself, but I would love to kick us off because I promised I would be respectful of your time and those that are listening in. So, Rebecca, share with us who is a valuable leader in your life, that person that you, or maybe more than one person, but I know you have someone in mind who you would say, Velma, if it wasn't for this person, I don't believe I would be the leader that I am today. Share who that person is and why you would say that.
So interestingly, when I thought about this, I had three that came to mind. But one being the traditional mentor and leader that you
Yeah.
have. They've got more experience than you. They're above you in title. Maybe they're your
Mhm.
manager. And then I have that peer leader, the person
Mm.
kind of next to me who's going through things similarly to what I'm going through. And then
Right.
a reverse mentorship situation with people that have been younger than me that I've gotten a lot of insights and help from, and staying in touch with what's going on. So my first leader at 24 that I, identify was coming into NBCF. His name was John. He was the one who really pulled me over into the finance area because he just saw that I could do more than just accounting.
Sure.
So he poured into me. He believed in me.
Mm.
He put me in situation. He pushed me outside my comfort zone a lot. Sometimes it was crash and burn.
Oh my goodness.
Sometimes, which was a big learning too.
Right. Right.
Sometimes it went great, but he always pushed me to do more than I really thought I could,
Yeah.
and just saw things in me that I didn't really know translated into the business world yet, right? Like things that I could do or the way I thought about things.
Yeah.
I was still very young, learning how what's my place in this business world. And so he was there, just at every step. He
Mm.
also, I think in ways, and I would see a lot today, is people get very nervous about feedback, about
Yeah. Yeah.
giving. They don't want to be too critical, and they don't want to have that confrontation.
Mhm.
And he was always giving me feedback, and he would be like, this is picky stuff, but I want you to be great. Like,
Yeah.
I want you to go to the next level.
Hmm.
And so he'd come in after a meeting and be like, oh, this is really great. And I'd be like, but
Here comes the but.
here comes the next thing. So, and he'd give
Okay.
really great praise, really genuine, great praise for things, but
Mhm.
there's always something to work on. There's always something to improve and do better. And so I've really taken that, and I end up mentoring a lot on that, and how
Mhm.
clear is kind, and sharing that, it's kind of our responsibility as leaders and managers to share that with the people
Yeah,
under us, because who else is doing it?
sure.
Who else is going to help them in that way? And how are you maybe hindering their career down the path by not giving them that honest feedback and by
Yeah,
not having those conversations, because you care and you want them to do better. So coming from a place of
sure.
caring about their advancement and improvement. So he really taught me a lot in that area, and
Sure.
not to be afraid to lean into that with people.
Hmm.
So he always advocated for me, always pushed for me, but he wasn't perfect. He messed up. We had meetings where that went really bad, where I would be really upset afterwards. But another thing was, he was always open to me coming and talking to him. So if I came and said, I really didn't like how I felt in that meeting, or I really didn't
Yeah,
like this, he apologized, he talked through it with me, and he's like, I'm gonna try to be better. So the
right.
humility in that, of having I mean, frankly, an older male with a younger female,
Yeah,
and who I could go to and say, I don't feel good in this, and he
yeah,
absolutely owned it and took responsibility, was really great, because that could have gone a totally different way, in a lot of organizations. But he just was very humble in that he accepted that feedback. So I also take that into account a lot. So that's John. My peer is one of my best friends. She's also in the business world. She's also a mom of young kids, and she's kind of in the same. We've been in this. We're constantly striving for the next thing. So I go to her a lot, talking about best practices she's using to manage teams. What is she doing in tough situations?
sure.
What does her company do about different things? So being able to talk to her, in a similar kind of spot that I'm in,
Right.
and understanding the challenges, and as you get to these higher titles and whatever, it's lonely at the top, and you're
Yeah.
not able to always get the feedback and stuff, or you're not able to go to the same people. So having her is really wonderful, and her name's Becca too. Best
Yeah.
friends Becca and Becca.
Right.
What one of the things I had done in my organization was I started internship programs, which is kind of like a passion thing, just pouring into the next generation on that. But a lot of those interns that I started with are still there, like 8 years
Yeah.
later, and they're
Wow.
still working there. And so I go to them a lot to see what's going on. What do you think about this? What are your
Yeah.
thoughts about? I mean, to some level, right? There's some things you can't really mix as a leader, but or it puts undue information on them that they don't need to know. But overall, like, what do you think about trying this? And what do you think staff's going to feel? Because they're going to be more in touch with that first level of
Yeah.
staff, and like what they need and whatever's going on with them. So I really like to touch base, and I'll call and say, I've got this thing going on. What do you guys think? What's your department going to think about this? So being able to touch with those couple of people that I built really good relationships with early on,
Yeah.
mutual respect and trust, has been really awesome to lean on in different scenarios.
Man, I love this triangle you got going on. I'm just if my head is kind of spinning and you're like, she's analyzing something. I'm like, what a triangle that you have been blessed with, because John, who hands down, what I love what you shared is the fact that yes, he's a leader. He wanted everything he could to make you a better leader, but he also knew he wasn't perfect. And he would
Mhm.
own up to whenever you felt like, wait a minute, that what just happened didn't make me feel seen. I didn't feel heard, and I didn't feel like I was valued. And even though his intentions were really good, and he was like, you know what? That's on me. I own up to it. And what a great
Yeah.
example of the fact that when we were talking earlier, leadership doesn't look the same on everyone, right? And
Mhm.
and that John, on that triangle, to me, he's that learning leader himself, because he has
Mhm.
such a passion for helping you, and he's learning himself and admitting, right? But showing you that you're not going to get it right. I'm not going to get it right. And we got to be willing to own up to that. And then
Right.
Becca, of course, right? You and Becca are kind of like on the same path. Sometimes you're a little ahead of her than on the path, and she's a little ahead of you on different areas, but with the same goal in mind, to be a great leader for the people that you're responsible for. Juggling the life and leadership at the same time, right? And with the kids and family. And so you have that side of the triangle covered. I'm like, wow, you've got somebody going on the same path parallel with you, with the same name. And then and then of course the next generation that you've opened the door to, which finishes this triangle where you've got these interns that are now employees. So what a I guess to me, what a great story of being the kind of leader and having the kind of culture that people come in as an intern and say, I want to stay. I feel like I
Right.
belong here. And then to be able to, like you say, you tap them for certain things, because as a leader, we all know that there's a lot of responsibility. But again, having people feel like they're included and just asking, well,
Mhm.
what do you think of this thing or that? It gives you a great perspective. So you, my friend, are in like this catbird seat with this triangle of just fabulous, valuable leaders that you're tapping into. And that's, yeah, I mean, I don't, and that's how you are who you are today. I'm like, wow,
Yeah,
wow.
when I was thinking about that question, I was like, I just have them all around me, right? And it's awesome. I learn a lot from, and I
Wow.
like learning through people a lot, I feel
Yeah.
like. People and experience and real experiences and case
Yeah.
study things. So it's kind of this great way to get it from all angles, I guess.
Oh my gosh, I just love it. You made me form this triangle in my mind. I kept putting your people on this diagram, and I kept saying she's got come full circle. And so I'm going to take it a step further. Not that you really haven't already kind of addressed this, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about how do you pay it forward now that you know what it means to have such valuable leaders in your life at all stages of the leadership pathway? How do you pay it forward?
One of the ways I was talking about was through that internship part. That's one of the ways that I've done
Yeah.
it. Although I've become more separated from it, and I kind of hurts my heart because I love connecting with that next generation. I almost feel like I have a gap right now. So it's something I want to lean into a little more,
Yeah.
is kind of as those newer people are coming in, trying to find ways to keep connecting and just sharing vision, sharing what we're trying to do together.
Mhm.
I even think about, I'm on an accounting team, right? So it's people who are just plugging away every day. They're just doing the daily grind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
making sure that everything ties, making sure all the stuff is, in order. So to me, my job is to help them understand and see what the bigger picture is, and as I'm pouring into that, them understanding that for their, how they share with people or when they're in that leadership spot, making sure that
Mhm.
they're taking that step back. So being that example at the end of the day of the kinds of things you want to share, get people involved on the transparency as you can on
Right.
certain things so that they have a good pulse on what's happening, why we're doing this, especially in a nonprofit or mission focused thing. You always want to make sure you're touching on, I mean, anywhere, not just
Right.
nonprofit, maybe even more so outside of nonprofit, because it's really easy to do
Right.
it in nonprofit, right? This
Right.
is for this bigger cause. So
Right.
always considering that, but also I saw a gap in a need in my space of CFOs who are nonprofits who need that peer support.
Yes.
They have a lot for CEOs. They'll
Right.
have those peer support nonprofit, but there wasn't a lot for CFOs, and so I formed a nonprofit affinity group for CFOs in our area. We probably have like 60 plus organizations that are involved with in some capacity. Their CFOs are involved. So it's been really, really cool to see how much that group has needed each other when we've
Yeah.
met. It's
Yeah.
probably been a year, just about a year now that we've been meeting.
Right.
Um, it came together so easily
Right.
because it was such a need. It was just meeting this
Wow.
need that people had to connect and pour into each other. So there's a little bit of cross pouring into each other, right? Like we're at the same
Hmm.
level, but it's that peer support that was needed to make sure we're getting support we need. And some are in bigger, some are more experienced,
Yeah.
and so or they're at bigger organizations, and so they can share more ideas on stuff or just have more resources. And there's a lot of small who really need help in thinking through things or helping challenge the practices of the day and keep their organizations evolving and moving forward. So it's been a really cool space to see how to pour into, even as I've been in for 12 years in nonprofit, and helped other nonprofits do things, is to help pour into those people who need
Yeah.
help in the same space that I'm in.
Wow. Yeah, no, and you started off by saying you felt like it was a gap, but then you filled the gap. I mean, maybe there's still more that you want to do because I know that I could sense that you have a big heart for really connecting and helping people to maximize their potential because you've been gifted with so much of that from valuable leaders. But to be able to form a group where there is this sense of belonging in the area of interest with the CFOs of nonprofits. I mean, I just think that's huge to me. And kudos to you for having the vision. And it came from a place of where, like you said, I felt lonely at the
Mhm.
top. And so if you're feeling it, then there's others that are struggling with that too. And that was, I guess without even knowing it, that's one of the reasons I started your leadership chat is because I felt like sometimes people just want to listen in on what other leaders are learning and what they could
Mhm.
learn from, and from all walks of life, because there's just a gamut. Because I love your saying that leadership is not one, if there's just not one face on leadership. So hands down. Okay.
Well, and I could
Mhm.
say it was born kind of what you said of a selfish need. I
Yeah,
wanted the help and I wanted to kick the ideas around and see what other people were doing and not
right,
work in this silo, especially in a space where we're all just trying to do good, right?
right.
We're not really competing, right?
No,
We all want to do this good thing for different groups of people. So the idea of sharing, it's come so easily to share, what we're doing and what new thing maybe we're doing that's working really well to just
yeah.
help each other out so that everyone can benefit and help our community at the end of the day.
Wow, that's huge. So I love it, and I love the fact that it's a gap that you saw in your own life, but then you realize that I got to do something about it, and then you see that so many other people, your peers, are in that same situation. And what a
Yes.
great way to deliver value, extra value there, and pay it forward. Okay. So, not that you haven't given us a big takeaway or two, because I've gotten some, but what would be one big takeaway that you would want to share with listeners on how they can become more of a valuable leader? What would you say, Rebecca?
So I think a couple things that I've noticed or felt as I've grown in my leadership, and I think I'm speaking more to like higher level leaders, but continuing to stay in touch with all of your people,
Mm,
continuing it's really being present, spending
mm,
time, just having a listening ear towards
yeah.
people popping in, saying hello, meeting with somebody, but spending time. Don't It can feel like our world is so rushed all the time. There's the next thing to go to. There's constantly things to go to. So just making time for people at all levels of your organization. And there's things like skip level meetings, right? That you can do where you're actually skipping who reports to you and meeting with people underneath to kind of touch base and hear what's on their mind and what they care about. Having that listening ear and asking questions, being
Mm,
able to say, what's going on in your world? How are things going in your day to day? Is there something I can do to help? Because I think as leaders, we're often focused on removing barriers to people
yeah.
doing their best work. And so, continuing to listen in for that and see what we can do, so that we can continue to do that work, essentially what we're supposed to be doing, but just staying in touch with that generation. The humility that I mentioned with John that I felt like he
Yeah.
had in those situations, I feel like is so important, to just like I continue to say is just asking the questions and not acting like you do know everything that's going on because you
Right.
probably don't.
Because we don't. No.
That's because you don't.
Exactly.
So, and so being open to those
Yeah.
forums and the feedback and the coaching and
Mhm.
the growth, so there's
Yeah.
humility that has to be there in order to continue to grow yourself and develop, because you
Mhm.
have to say I need to grow and I
Yes.
need to develop. I'm not at the top. I'm never going to be at the top. I'm never going to be, the perfect leader and everything. So there's always room to be coached. There's always room to get feedback. And
Yeah.
so just having the humility to be aware of that at all times.
Sure.
And then the other thing that I focus a lot on, and I recently actually was certified as a core clarity trainer, which is a training around Strengths Finder or Clifton Strengths. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yes.
Are
Oh
you?
yeah, yeah. No,
Ah,
yes, certified
okay.
in strengths. Gallup. Yep. Mhm.
Awesome. Awesome. And so
Wow.
That's awesome.
We
So
got to talk
I'm
about
even
that at another
I know,
on
it's
another
like,
chat.
might just go another hour. But I love strengths-based leading.
Yes.
So when I talked about how it doesn't always look the same, I think people think you have to be super strategic. You have to be a great
Yeah,
communicator. You have to be able to stand up in front of people in order to lead an organization, and it's not true.
exactly.
It's more about understanding your strengths, your talents, what you bring to the table, and at the end of the day, as you know, those strengths and talents are what bring you joy and energy. And when you're leaning into them, you're going to do your best work, which
Yes.
looks like leadership. It looks like
Exactly.
leadership in any way you want to put it. I think of a lot of leaders I think of the leaders in my life who don't necessarily have a title, but they're leading their families. They're leading in their faith and how they
Yes.
reach out to people. And I go to those people for those things. They have a great listening ear, and so they're
Yeah.
leading in how they're sharing with people. So just leaning into understanding, and not this idea that I have to fix these things about me in order to be a great leader,
Right.
but that it's leaning into that knowledge of what you're really gifted and talented at, knowing that about yourself,
Hmm.
and then growing in those areas to be the best leader you
Yeah.
can be.
Yeah, no, you said it so beautifully because as a Gallup Strengths coach, uh, we focus on finding what's right and then building on what's right versus there's so much focus on what's wrong and how to improve what's wrong or what's the weaknesses. And we know that your strengths, the talents that you have, your natural gifts, and then your skill sets and your knowledge, when you bring them together in this strength, the more you use a strength, it's like a muscle, right? It gets stronger.
Mm-hmm.
You perform better, you're happier, retention goes up, absenteeism goes down. People are just having so much more joy. So I am a true believer that we all have strengths, we all have these natural gifts and abilities. And there's not one that's different. That's why leadership it has a different face. But when you operate out of those strengths, what a powerful, just a powerful way to lead yourself and to lead those around you.
Yes, that's right. Oh, I love that.
And we didn't
Oh,
have this planned. I mean, I didn't know. And look at us. So I knew there was just something about you. Just teaser.
well, I'm a relate. I know not everybody's gonna know this. I'm a relator and I'm individualization. So I
Okay.
just love like pulling that out of people, and I
Yeah.
love that training. I think because of that, I'm like really into that training and learning about people that way. So I
Right.
just enjoy it so much. So if anybody out there's listening, go do your strengths assessment, have
Yes.
everybody do it, and then get a
Yes.
trainer, because
Yeah.
it's kind of doesn't work without a training on it. But
Right.
it's such a cool way to understand yourself and the people you work with.
Yeah, and do your best. Show up as your best. You'll show up
Yes.
as your best self when you lean into your strengths. And if you're a leader listening and you have, you're responsible for individuals in the organization, like Rebecca, and I can call her Becca now because we're like friends, we're like strength buddies here.
That's right.
But just value that strength, the strengths that those members acknowledge it, recognize it, help them to see it so that you see them, you hear them, and you value them for what they bring to the table. And I'm telling you, the performance of your organization, the collaboration, communication, it's gonna be beyond what you think you can get from other types of development programs. So hands down.
Couldn't agree
Well,
more.
oh my goodness. Yeah. So that's awesome. You gave us too much. We had several golden nuggets there on the big takeaway. But, I think I picked up on the fact that you need to be present and listen, right? And really lean in and then leverage the strengths that you have,
Hmm.
because that's when you're going to show up like your best self.
That's
And
right.
when you show up
That's
as your
it.
best self, there's only one you, there's no competition. So hands down, love that big takeaway for our listeners today. Thank you so much. How can listeners learn more about you, learn more about the foundation, the National Breast Cancer Foundation? I'm a huge supporter of the breast cancer cause. And so I was just thrilled when I knew that the CFO And I was like, the CFO actually wants to go on video, but but when we met and I got introduced to you, I was just so thrilled that you would not only be here, but be here standing as the voice of such an important cause. So share a little bit about how people can connect or learn more.
Yes, National Breast Cancer Foundation. We've been around for over 30 years, founded by a breast cancer survivor and her husband at the time. We are focused on helping women now. So, you can look us up at www.nbcf.org to find out more. We're on social, we're on all the things there. We do some really cool stuff. We have a wonderful team. We really try to help women at any stage of their breast cancer journey. So we're not doing a bunch of research in that, like the future focus things. There's organizations that really focus on the future, finding a cure and everything. We're focused on the day-to-day needs of survivors and educating people on what they need to look for, support groups, helping women pay for their diagnostic exams in the hospital, and then navigating through that if they do find out they have breast cancer. Lots of very tangible ways to get involved if you feel so inclined. We've got lots of volunteer opportunities and working on even more that can be national volunteer opportunities for anybody that's listening. We are based in Frisco, Texas, so there's always a lot of things going on in our office, but we are working on expanding those opportunities outwards. So find us there. I also share a lot about the organization on LinkedIn. So you can find me there. Rebecca Buell, CPA, I think is what I am.
Yeah.
So
we'll put your LinkedIn for sure, as well as the National Breast Cancer URL. But we'll make sure that for those so they could follow what you're posting too, because I do.
Perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. So that's how you find us. And I love, if there's any other opportunities that people want to connect it, absolutely reach out to me if you feel like there's something else. I'm happy to help. We love what we do. We believe very much in what we do and how we serve people. We want to serve everyone with excellence and treat everybody as basically the guest of honor, in a sense, of how we want to make sure we're taking care of people and getting them what they need. So we hope to continue doing that. We'd love to share and partner with anybody that wants to know more.
Oh man, this is so good. And thank you so much for sharing that. And for those that are listening in, if you or someone that you love has been impacted from, having to walk down that journey with breast cancer or a survivor of that, I just hope that there's a resource through this Your Leadership Chat video podcast that you could tap into if you didn't know of it before, with the National Breast Cancer Organization here. So thank you so much, Becca. I so appreciate you. Hey, thanks so much for watching another episode of Your Leadership Chat. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button here and tap that bell icon so that you never miss another episode. I hope too that you'll give us a thumbs up on the video for a like. And then if you feel led, please share the video with those who need to see it. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Your Leadership Chat. Bye for now.